It's that time of the week again, and YieldMax Group B announced their distributions along with those weekly pairs. And I'll also announce the distributions for RoundHill and Defiance weekly distributions. Hello, my friends, this is Legend. So, YieldMax Group B announced their distributions today, and in Group B, we'll have BABO, DIPS, FBY, GDXY, JPMO, MARO, MARNI, NVIDI, and PLTY. And we'll also have those weekly pairs for YieldMax, and that's CHPY, GPTY, LFGY, QDTY, RDTY, SDTY, SLTY, ULTY, YMAG, and YieldMax. So let's just go ahead and jump right into that, and let's see what we're going to get paid out. All right, so here we are on the distribution sheet, and this will be for September 10th, the weekly and Group B ETFs with YieldMax. So we'll start right off with the weeklies right here, and it's CHPY with 38 cents, GPTY with 29 cents, LFGY with 37 cents, QDTY with 17 cents, RDTY 25 cents, SDTY with 14 cents, SLTY with 55 cents, and that's a 60% distribution rate, ULTY with 9 cents at an 86 distribution rate, YMAG with 14 cents, and YieldMax with 13 cents. Now out of the weeklies, I have ULTY and I have YieldMax. So that's some extra money coming into my pocket. And now let's look at the ones that are in Group B that are paying out every 4 weeks. And we'll start off right here with BABO, 79 cents, DIPS with 28 cents, FBY 45 cents, GDXY 64 cents, JPMO with 27 cents, MARO with 93 cents, and that's a 64% distribution rate, MARNI with 7 cents, NVIDI with 64 cents, and that's a 50% distribution rate, and PLTY with $2.44, and that's a 50% distribution rate as well. So I was hoping for a little higher premiums on NVIDI and PLTY, but hey, that is still money coming into my pocket. I will take it. Now next week will be Group C, and it will be the same weekly payers along with ABNY, AMD, Coney, DRAY, Fiat, HUI, MSFO, NEFLY, and PYPY. So now let's just go ahead and jump right over into the Defiance weeklies, and let's see what they're paying out. All right, so we are looking at the Defiance payouts here, and this too is for September 12th. And we'll start right off with WDTE for 20 cents, QQQY with 18 cents, IWMY with 23 cents, OSOY with 10 cents, and GLDY with 13 cents. Now out of these, I have IWMY, QQQY, and WDTE. Now these are weekly, just like the weekly YieldMax ones are. They pay out every week, and they have the same payout dates as YieldMax has. So now let's look at RoundHill. So these will be the RoundHill weekly distributions, and in these we have XDTE, and that's going to pay out 21 cents. We have QDTE for 20 cents, and RDTE for 22 cents. So I'll have a bit more coming into my pocket. And these two have the same X and pay date. X date is tomorrow and pay date is Friday. And that's true for YieldMax, Defiance, and RoundHill funds here that we've just looked at. And one thing to also note is on the RoundHill, they have an expense ratio of 0.97% for these three funds here. So that's kind of interesting, right? That's pretty low considering I think in YieldMax, the lowest is 0.99, and that was with MSTY. As I think ULTY is about 1.3, right? But also keep in mind, these are still off of one ETF, right? versus ULTY being many stocks, right? So there's a lot to that. So the $1.03 for the expense ratio makes more sense. Now let's just take a look at ULTY and MSTY, and let's just see where they're sitting at today, along with PLTY. All right, so we're looking at the actual chart right now, and this is for ULTY. You can see it is a red candle, but you also have to understand that yesterday's close was at 558, and this opened at 560, right? So it opened higher than the close of the previous day, but then came back to 559, and that's why you have a red candle. Even though at 559, it is higher than the close of the previous day of 558. So technically, it did go up, even though you see a red candle, right? So hopefully we can get ULTY to keep moving on up. That would be great. I've got that buy at 530, but I'm okay if that just sits out there, right? I wouldn't mind seeing ULTY moving on up, get back up to that $6 range. That would be great. And if we look at the adjusted chart, we can get a better idea of some of the indicators. And here we go. And you can see we are moving up on that Bollinger Band. Now keep in mind, this is several stocks, right? So it's really difficult to really try to chart ULTY as there's so many different variables going on with it, right? But it don't hurt to still take a look and see where it's at, right? Now this here is a good sign, right? Looks like we are trying to cross over. That momentum is decreasing on the red side, so hopefully we can get a little green candle tomorrow. That would be great. And get a cross, that would be even better. But we will be getting that distribution taken out of the stock tonight, right? If we look at the 559 close, and the overnight is 552. So it looks like there's 7 cents right there. Even though we got paid out the 9 cents, looks like it's already captured a little bit back. And we can look at the 5-minute chart just to see if we can see it on the chart itself. All right, so here we are on the 5-minute chart, and you can see, and this is ULTY during market hours, right? In this section here. And then it went to close, right? And it closed here, and then we were in post-market through here. Now you can see a little bit of a shade change in that color. Well, this over here is overnight, all right? So this is after the 8 p.m. mark, and therefore that is the time when the distribution comes out of the stock, right? And that's why you see it up here, and then all of a sudden, boom, it drops down here. Because they take that 9 cents out of the stock price, and then you have your new price. Wouldn't it be great if overnight and pre-market we go ahead and recapture that distribution that we just paid out, right? That would be wonderful. Now, as you can see, I've got 150 shares at an average of 566, so I'm pretty happy with that. And if it does decide to pull back, then of course I do have my buy order, or if it does trigger my buy point being below the 10 on the RSI 2, I may buy some more at that point as well. But right now, I'm at a hold and just capturing that distribution, right? So let's take a look at PLTY. And here we are on PLTY. You can see that we had a nice little pop-up today, right? We'll zoom in here. Had a nice little pop-up, which does help because tonight, of course, the distribution comes out of the price. So if you get a nice little pop-up and then we're going to pay out $2.44, then it will come out of this price here, out of that $63.43. That'll take it down to about 61 and some odd cents, right? So that puts us back to here. And then hopefully we can just continue moving on up from that point. And that would be great. And let's flip it over to the adjusted chart and let's check our indicators for PLTY. All right, here we are in the indicators, and you can see we have now moved above that midpoint on the Bollinger Band. Now, of course, after that payout, it will drop back down to about 61.20 range or something like that. So that's going to put it back down below the midpoint, but that's okay. We do have a little sliver of green, and because it is trying to cross that signal line on the MACD. And that's a great sign. And we'll see how that distribution removal of the price affects the MACD here. Do we continue moving on up, or do we start seeing a bit of a sell-off, and of course then causing the MACD to go back down, right? And not cross, but actually bounce off of that signal line. The RSI2 is at 93, so it is not a buy point for me. Now let's just take a look at MSTY, and here we are on MSTY. As you can see, we are still just kind of trading sideways, right? It's still just trading sideways in MSTY. We get a nice little run up, and it ran up as high as 1590 before pulling back and closing at 1538, which means that it pretty much closed flat on the day, as the close from yesterday was 1544. I still have my put out there for a $16 put, and it's out to January 16th of 2026. And I have my call for a $25 call for September 19th. I have a total of 475 shares. Now it says 375. It subtracts that 100 from here because of the covered call that I've got right here. So this is 100 shares here, plus 375 is a total of 475 for my total shares. And as we've seen before in my spreadsheet, I am around about a $2.12 per share adjusted average cost. So I am loving this, and that's why I still like to talk about MSTY, because coming very soon, I hope I can get my MSTY paid off, and then I can just start earning that free and clear distribution, right? And I can just use that money however I want. I can then start building up MSTY, and I have no personal invested cash into MSTY at that point. And that is my plan and my goal. So let's flip this over to the adjusted chart, and let's just see where it sets on the indicators. All right, here we are on the Bollinger Band for MSTY. We are on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, as we've been there for a while, right? It's just been a rough time with MSTY and Mr., right? It is what it is, but it's still paying out a distribution, so I'm still happy. Notice we did get a little bit of a cross on the MACD. We are showing a little sliver of green. It's like the sun coming over the horizon, right? Oh, if it can only continue, right? That's what I'd love to see, and I'm going to still hope for that. Now that RSI2 is coming down a little bit. We're sitting at 26.95. If it does decide to move down a little bit and that RSI2 drops below that 10, well, I might have to buy another share or two. It just really depends. It's hard to pass up those opportunities, but man, I need to get this thing paid off first. It's always a tough decision. But of course, what is driving MSTY? That is Mr. And Mr. is just getting smacked, right? It's just getting smacked. Because when you look at Bitcoin and you see a big green candle for today, and then you look at Mr. and you see a red candle, right? It is very discouraging. But you do have to understand there's a lot more going on with Mr. Mr. is probably being shorted heavily, I imagine. It's not going to get the respect that it deserves because it is mostly made up of Bitcoin, right? And the market really doesn't see that as a protective asset, right? Bitcoin itself being more speculative still, even though now institutions can get into it, it is still viewed as more of a higher risk than, say, stocks or something, right? It's still viewed that way. And that is why I believe Mr.'s having a rough time getting into the S&P 500, right? They've met all the criteria, but they just can't seem to get brought into the S&P 500. On this last round, they took Robinhood instead. And I honestly think it's because Mr. really does not have much cash. all of their money is in Bitcoin. And even though it has paid well for them, right? The market is never going to view it the same as a blue chip stock, right? It's never going to view it the same. Always going to add a little bit more of a risk to it. And I think that is why Mr. is going to have a hard time getting into the S&P 500. Now, I'm still hoping for it, right? Because if they can get into the S&P, that's going to help push this stock up, right? Because then everybody who is invested in the S&P will also be investing into Mr. But I think we're all going to have to be a little patient and give it some time before Mr. can join the S&P. I'm still hoping and crossing my fingers, but I think we might have a bit more time before they'll bring Mr. in to the bunch. And we're going to do some quick updates here. We're looking at Coca-Cola of my swing trades. And you can see this one here, I'm still at a hold. It's still sitting at around that 67.82. It was pretty flat on the day, even though it did move up and it did move down a good bit. I have a buy at $67, but today it only got as low as $67.21. So it did not come down to trigger that purchase. But if it does, it'll pick it up at that 67. I've got 12 shares at 68.33 average. So I'm still feeling pretty good about this one. The next is Walmart. Now check this out. Oh my goodness, right? Let's turn on the moving averages here and get a feel of where that MA5 is. And there we are looking at the moving averages. Now I had it sitting back here at 99.14, and because we had those two green candles, and the video I said yesterday was if we get a green candle tomorrow that I would move it up. Well, it started moving up, right? It went as high as 102.45. So I went ahead and I bumped it right up to $100.20 even, right? Now this is showing $100.15. Well, that's because this is a stop limit order, right? So it's got two values in there and it just shows the lowest one, right? So currently my stop is at $100.20 and the limit part of that is at $100.15. And how low did it get today? It got down to $100.39. Boy, that's pretty close, right? That is so close. I was only 19 cents away of getting stopped out of this one. It did not get there, and I'm hoping tomorrow we're showing a little bit of green, like they're showing after hours and overnight here. I hope that's a green candle tomorrow, and we can move this on up. If it comes down just a little bit tomorrow, it's going to kick me out. Now, if it opens and it opens below my limit order of that $100.15, then it will have bypassed this and this will not execute. And at that point, I'll be turning this off because I don't want it to move up, kick me out, and then keep on moving up, right? So we'll see. I am so close of getting kicked out of this one. I don't want to be, but wow, that's a nasty red candle right there. But that's what my stop is for, right? It's to keep me from riding this win all the way back down to $96. So if I get stopped out, so be it. But you can see this RSI 2 even got down as low as 24.01. And the momentum here did decrease just a little bit on that green side. So I'm hoping that this is just a bit of a cool down. It did come down to the bottom of this candle right here. The bottom of that candle is at 142, and this came down to 139. So very close to that. I'm hoping that that is going to be a little bit of a support, and tomorrow we just bounce right off of it. Because if it dips any, it's going to kick me out. But I'll be leaving it right there at that MA5 at $100.20 and just hope that I don't get kicked out. And if I do, then it was just meant to be. And take a look at Duke. All right. Duke had a nice little turnaround today, right? Yesterday it closed at $120.38. And today it went as high as 121.46. So we had a nice move today and closed at 121.35. My average of my 4 shares is 120.28. This is running through that MA5, so I'm not going to set my stop yet. If I get a candle and it's a green candle living above that MA5, then I might be able to set my stop right there on the MA5. And it will be somewhat of a small win if I do get kicked out at that point, because that's only sitting at 120.68. And since I bought it at 0.28, that's only a 40 cents per share gain, right? Not much. You take it whether it's a big win like we're having with Walmart, or if it's a small win like it might be here with Duke Energy. But you don't know what tomorrow brings. You'd much rather get kicked out than to ride this thing on back down. So you play with what it's giving you, not necessarily what you want. And the last one here being Visa. And they had a red day today, didn't they? Wow, that's nasty. It ended up going just below the MA200, which overall I'm okay with. I don't think it'll continue on moving down, but that's not guaranteed. But I did purchase a couple more shares for Visa because it did drop. You can see there's the Visa right there at $3.39, 2 shares. And there's the Visa, 2 shares at $3.38. So I purchased 2 shares at $3.39 because I had a limit set for that, as I didn't think it was going to go down that far, right? Because we were sitting at around 340, 345 area here. So when I set that at that 339, I thought I was going to catch it when it pulled back just a little bit and then take back off, right? But it ended up hitting that 339, and I also had one at 338, so it hit that one as well. So that gave me 4 more shares. So I have a total of 8 shares at 340.54 now. So that helped bring my average down once again, and we closed at 338.12. So I'm okay with that one as well. So anyway, I've still got some things going on here. I've got some swing trades still moving. I'm still in the YieldMax ETFs, drawing those distributions, still keeping my head up high and smiling all the way to the bank, right? I know a lot of people are upset with MSTY's price dropping. And it has been, right? I mean, we've been dropping, right? It has been going down. And no, I'm not excited about it, right? Neither is anyone else. But I'm still earning those distributions. I'm still getting my MSTY paid off. And eventually, I will have it paid off. And once it is paid off, then I will be setting nice, drawing those free and clear distributions. So when I'm looking at the price, I'm not too worried, right? Because of my adjusted average price being $2.12, I'm not too worried about a $15 MSTY price. Do I want it to go up? Why, yes, of course I do, right? We all do. But I'm okay with it sitting down here for a little bit, resting, until we can get Mr. here back on the train. But that's all I'm doing. I'm just playing the patient game. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.